I traveled back to 1958 and nearly starved to death right at the start. My own father ran off with all the money and grain with a widow, leaving me with nothing but an empty house and a stomach that hadn't eaten for 3 days. Just when I thought I was done for here, my wrist suddenly grew hot, and 4 words popped up. 58 supermarket. 100 gene of flour, 1 yuan. 100 gene of eggs, 1 yuan. But here was the problem. I didn't even have that 1 yuan. When I opened my eyes, the calendar hanging on the wall shocked me speechless. 1958. My head felt like someone had smashed it with a heavy blow, and it hurt badly. I braced myself against the bedboards and sat up. The torn cotton quilt slid to the floor. The room was empty, except for a broken table with only 3 legs. The plaster peeling off the walls, not even a decent piece of furniture to be seen. My stomach burned with pain. I hadn't eaten for 3 days. Only then did the memories slowly come flooding back. My name is Chenxi, 18 years old. The original owner had the exact same name as me. His mother died early, and not long ago his father ran off with a widow, taking everything in the house that could be carried away and not leaving even a single grain of rice for his own son. The original owner was just about to start work as a purchasing clerk at the steel factory, but before he could make it to his first day, he starved to death on this very bed. I touched my growling stomach and let out a bitter laugh. Fine. At least I'm here now, and I still have a breath left in me. Chenxi? Chenxi, are you awake? A woman's voice came from outside the door, and then the door was pushed open. Auntie came in carrying a bowl. Steam rose from it, and the scorched fragrance of toasted flour drifted straight into my nose. Her eyes were red, her cheekbones sharply protruding, and her cheeks were deeply sunken in. One look was enough to tell she had been going hungry for a long time. You child, I called for you for ages this morning, and you didn't answer. When I came in to check, you'd already fainted. Auntie made you some fried flour porridge. Drink it while it's hot. I lowered my head and looked at the stuff in the bowl, calling it fried flour porridge. Was generous. Really, it was just a little flour mixed into plain hot water, so thin. You could see your reflection in it. There was only a shallow layer at the bottom of the bowl, not even a third full. But that toasted aroma kept drilling into my nose, and my stomach growled uselessly. Thank you, Auntie. I took it and drank it all in 2 or 3 gulps. Warmth slowly spread from my stomach, and only then did I truly feel alive again. Auntie went on muttering and cursing my damned father for quite a while, then wiped away her tears and went out. After she left, I collapsed back onto the bed. Those 2 mouthfuls of flour soup did nothing much. I was still hungry, so hungry that my vision darkened and my head buzzed. Right then, my wrist suddenly started to burn. It felt like being burned by a cigarette butt, and also like being bitten by a bug, itchy and painful at the same time. I hurriedly rolled up my sleeve to look, but there was nothing there. Yet the next second my mind suddenly sank, and it felt as if all awareness had been pulled out of me. I fell straight asleep. When I woke up again, it was Annie waking me. She was worried something had happened to me, so she came back to check. I told her I was fine, just asleep, and only then did she leave reassured. After she left, I moved my wrist and got ready to get out of bed, when the spot my fingers touched suddenly grew hot. Looking down, I saw an extra mark on my wrist in the shape of a backpack, very faint in color, as if it were showing through from beneath my skin. I tried touching it. A translucent interface popped up before my eyes. 58 supermarket. A cheat ability. My heart pounded wildly, and I nearly sprang up from the bed. The standard transmigration package had finally arrived. But after the excitement faded and I looked more closely, my heart went cold again. What kind of supermarket was this? In the empty interface, there was only a lone 1 yuan flash sale sign hanging there. Everywhere else was a vast blank whiteness, with nothing at all. I tapped into the flash sale section, and the products were even more pitiful. Just 2 items, flour and eggs. And both started at 100 gene, each for only 1 yuan. 1 yuan for 100 gene of flour? 100 gene of eggs? My mind raced in an instant. In this era, grain cost about 0.2 yuan per gene, and money alone still wasn't enough. You needed ration coupons to buy it. Right now it was the height of the hard times, with supplies in severe shortage. Grain prices on the black market had already multiplied several times over, and even with money, you couldn't buy grain. 100 gene for 1 yuan. This was practically manna from heaven. I clicked purchase without the slightest hesitation. Insufficient balance. Those 4 words popped up and poured cold water all over me. Balance? Where was this balance supposed to come from? Top up? I searched through the entire system interface and actually found a top-up entry. But the problem was, I didn't have a single dime in my pocket. The original owner's father had stripped the house cleaner than a dog licking a plate, even to the point of wanting to haul away the water jar. I paced around the room anxiously, rummaging through everything for ages, and finally spotted a broken bicycle in the corner. A 28-inch roadster, covered in rust. Even the chain was loose. The original owner's father had fled too hastily to take it with him. I hoisted the bike and went out. I went to 3 pawn shops, talked and bargained my way through, and finally got 20 yuan for it. When I got home, I shut the door and eagerly opened the system to top up. Luck was on my side. It credited instantly, and the balance showed 20 yuan. 1 yuan exchanged for 1 yuan, no ripoff. Flash sale. Ding. Flash sale successful. Obtained 100 gene of flour. Ding. Flash sale successful. Obtained 100 gene of eggs. The 2 items didn't appear in the room, but went into the system's storage bag. That storage bag was like a portable space. Put something in and it disappeared. Take it out and it appeared in your hand. I tried putting the broken table from the house into it. With a thought, the table instantly went into the storage bag. My eyes nearly popped out. This function was way too practical. In this era, it was practically a life-saving treasure. With flour and eggs, at least I wouldn't starve to death anytime soon. I boiled 5 eggs and wolfed them down, and finally my stomach felt settled. I didn't dare steam buns. There wasn't enough time. Dawn was almost here, and today was the day I had to report to the steel factory. I absolutely couldn't be late on the first day. Section 5, Unit 5, Department 4 of the Procurement Department. The unit chief's surname was Wang, called Wang Weiman, and he had 10 people under him. The welcome ceremony was very simple. A handshake counted as starting the job, but for now I was only an intern, not yet a formal worker. Chief Wang looked unhappy all day. After the meeting, I heard colleagues gossiping in private that the factory's grain supply was critically tight, and the cafeteria had already cut meal standards. And yesterday, another worker had fainted from hunger at his post, nearly causing a production accident. The section chief had issued a strict order for every unit to find ways to increase procurement. But they had already combed through the rural villages and communes around the city, and truly couldn't scrape up anything edible anymore. The countryside was having an even harder time than the city. Commune members were chewing bark and eating grass roots themselves. I said nothing, my mind full of the 200 gene of food in my storage bag. After work, I returned to the courtyard while it still wasn't fully dark. Second Annie was squatting by the door doing laundry, and when she saw me, she straightened up to greet me. Chenxi, how was work today? Did everything go smoothly? Pretty good. Have you eaten yet, second auntie? She gave an awkward smile and didn't answer directly. I understood in my heart. These days, people without jobs only got 2 watery meals a day, and some families even only ate once a day, just relying on drinking water to hold out. Only the family's wage earner and main breadwinner could barely manage 2 or 3 corn buns for dinner. Chenxi, second auntie hesitated for a moment, but still leaned in and lowered her voice to ask me, did you manage to get an advance on your wages today? I smiled. A little. Second aunt, are you looking to borrow money? She quickly waved her hands. No, my family may be strapped, but we can still hold out. It's Antioch's family. They completely ran out of food yesterday. A widow with 2 children, and 2 elderly people above them too, all depending on her alone to keep them going. Chenxi, if you can lend a hand, then please help them out. My heart sank. Ran out of food? Antioch's family had run out of food, and she still used the little white flour her family had left to make fried flour paste for me? When I got home, I sat there for a long time without moving. That bowl of noodle soup, so thin you could see your reflection in it, and Antioch's sunken eyes, kept flashing through my mind. I stood up, weighed out 15 gene of flour, carried the bag over, and knocked on Antioch's door. Antioch, make me a pair of shoe soles, and take this bag of flour as payment. I stuffed the bag of flour into her hands and turned to leave. I was afraid that if I stayed even 1 second longer, she wouldn't accept it, and also afraid I wouldn't be able to stop myself from letting the truth slip. Behind me came the sound of suppressed sobbing. My steps paused for a moment, but I didn't look back and quickly returned to my own room. I shut the door and kneaded dough to steam buns. 2 hours later, a pot of white flour steamed buns came out piping hot. Their aroma filled the entire room. While gnawing on a bun, I opened the system and suddenly noticed there was an extra item in the storage bag. A card with the words "Good Person Card" written on it. Good Person Card? I was stunned at first, then quickly realized it must have triggered some kind of reward mechanism because I had brought flour to Antioch. I tapped Use, and the system interface immediately changed. Next to that empty 1 yuan flash sale section, a new area lit up, the meat section. The moment I tapped in and took a look, I nearly stopped breathing. Pork belly, pig's trotters, intestines, ribs, whole chicken, whole duck, goose, There was a full row of them. I swallowed hard and, gritting my teeth, spent 5 yuan to exchange for 5 jin of fatty pork. Watching my balance drop from 18 yuan to 13 yuan made my heart ache. I had to find a way to increase my income. Before dawn the next day, I got out of bed, and the first thing I did was check today's 1 yuan flash sale. The items were different from yesterday, replaced with 3 new things: peanuts, sweet potatoes, and candy, still in 100 jin packages, each for 1 yuan. I snapped up all of them, not leaving out a single jin. According to the original plan, I was supposed to go to the countryside today to procure supplies. But I knew very well that the situation in the countryside was even worse than in the city. Even if I really went, I wouldn't be able to collect anything. But I have the 58 supermarket, so none of that is a problem. The problem is, I'm a newly hired rookie, and if I procure supplies too easily, people are bound to get suspicious. I need to keep a low profile and avoid drawing attention. After thinking it over for a long time, I decided to go back to my rural hometown after work and visit Grandpa and Grandma. In the original owner's memories, the 2 elders had been very good to him and had raised him with great hardship. Now that I have the ability, it's time to go back and see them. And who knows, maybe I can even get another good person card. At first light, I slung a bamboo basket on my back and headed out. After walking for more than 2 hours, when I was almost at Lijiazwang, I found an empty corner with no one around, and took things out of the storage bag: 2 jin of fatty pork, 50 jin of peanuts, 10 jin of eggs, 10 jin of all-purpose flour, and 1 jin of candy, stuffing the bamboo basket full. Along the way, I saw far too many people who were yellow-faced and emaciated. Some were squatting by the roadside digging for wild greens, and some children were barefoot, searching the ground for grass roots to chew on. I didn't dare look too much, afraid my heart would soften. This country is going through its hardest period, and I alone can't save everyone. For now, all I can do is live my own life well first, and when I have the ability, help those who are worth helping. As soon as I reached the village entrance, several young men were moving stones to repair an irrigation canal. One of them recognized me, straightened up, and shouted, "Uncle Chenxi." It was Li Dafu, the son of my cousin's family, whose childhood nickname was Wankai. The 2 of us are about the same age, but by seniority, he has to call me uncle. Wankai doing hard labor? He scratched his head and chuckled, his dark, skinny face covered in sweat. Work assigned by the commune, 6 work points a day. I didn't chat much and kept walking into the village. The grass along both sides of the village path had been scraped clean. Not a single edible wild vegetable was left. A few children were squatting on the ground, pulling up weeds one by one, and curled up into a ball at the sight of a stranger. I beckoned to them. "Come here, do you know who I am?" A little snot-nosed kid sniffed, made a gulping sound, and swallowed his snot. Then tilted his face up and took a serious look at me. "Your 16th great-grandpa." That 16th great-grandpa made me jolt. If this child could call me 16th great-grandpa, he was probably the little grandson of one of my cousins. 2 generations below me. Line up properly, one at a time. I pulled a cloth bag out of my basket and grabbed a big handful of peanuts. The children's eyes lit up instantly, and their dirty little hands quickly spread open the fronts of their ragged clothes, afraid of missing even one. "Thank you, 16th great-grandpa." It's my turn. It's my turn. "Thank you, 16th great-grandpa." After I handed out the peanuts, the little kids took off running into the village, shouting as they ran that 16th great-grandpa had given them peanuts to eat. Their voices were sharp and clear, drifting far across the village. A few adults working in the distance watched the scene and started talking. "That's Chenxi back, isn't it? Just look at him, living on state grain in the city. How comfortable. Chenxi is old enough to start a family too. I have a cousin's niece on my mother's side, pretty as a flower, a perfect match for him. Oh, give me a break. Chenxi has high standards. He'll definitely look for a city girl." I didn't hear this gossip and walked straight to Grandpa's house with the bamboo basket on my back. Grandpa was in the yard repairing a shovel. The wooden handle had snapped into 2 pieces, and he was squatting on the ground trying to join the break back together. But no matter what he did, he couldn't get it right. Hearing footsteps, he looked up, froze for a moment, and the shovel in his hand clattered to the ground. "Chenxi, what are you doing back?" The old man's voice was trembling. He tossed aside the broken shovel and came over, grabbing me and looking me over from left to right. "You've lost weight. You've lost weight. Get inside, quick. I'll have your grandma cook for you." "Grandpa, don't fuss yet." I set down the bamboo basket. "Look what I brought you." The old man said, "If you're back, you're back. Why bring things?" But his eyes kept darting toward the basket. I took out the half bag of peanuts first and stuffed it into his hands. "For you to go with your drinks." He took it, weighed it in his hand, and his eyes lit up. "So many. Fried peanuts are so fragrant, with sweet potato liquor, TSK. He swallowed and quickly pushed the bag back toward me. It's enough if I just have a taste. Take the rest back with you. Things cost a lot in the city. Grandpa, I'm living on state grain now. I'm not short of these. The state is good. The state is good. He kept muttering it, and the wrinkles on his face relaxed. Then I lifted out the bag of flour. The old man took it, his hands sinking with the weight, and carefully looked at the words on the bag. His voice changing. This is high-grade flour. Then he started feeling pained again. If this were exchanged for coarse grain, how long would it last? You and Grandma are getting old. Eating some refined grain is good for your health. Next, I took out the eggs. 2 of them had cracked on the way, and the egg liquid had soaked a small patch of the cloth bag. The old man smacked his lips in distress and kept saying, "What a pity, what a pity." Then quickly picked out the 2 broken ones separately, saying they'd be stir-fried tonight. Finally, I felt around at the bottom of the basket and pulled out those 2 big slabs of fatty pork. The old man was completely speechless. He stared at the meat for a long while, his lips trembling twice before he forced out a sentence. "Chenxi, this. Did you bring all your meat ration coupons for the whole year? Grandpa, did you forget what I do? As a purchasing agent, getting some meat is only reasonable. You and Grandma can eat without worry. From now on, our family won't go hungry." The old man looked at me half believing, half doubting, but in the end he still nodded. He believed it, mainly because he wanted to. When he picked up those 2 slabs of meat, his hands were trembling. "This meat is really good. The fat is so thick. Grandpa's going to render the lard right now, and we'll save the cracklings for dumplings, so we can even skip the meat filling." The fire in the stove flared up, lighting the lines of wrinkles on the old man's face one by one, all filled with smiles. Grandma came out from the inner room, and, seeing the table full of things, stood there in a daze for quite a while, then turned around to wipe her eyes. I pretended not to notice. I glanced at the water jar and saw there wasn't much water left, so I picked up the shoulder pole and was about to go fetch some water. No. Grandpa quickly stopped me. "Your uncle comes by often. These chores aren't for you to do. My uncle's name is Li Shuqiang, and his home is right next door. He has 3 children at home, 7-year-old Lifu, 6-year-old Likai, and 4-year-old Lifong, right at the age when they eat the most. The family split up years ago, and the share of property my uncle got was pitifully small, so life has always been hard. My grandpa helped him back then, so he and his wife have always remembered the kindness. Heavy chores like hauling water and chopping firewood have basically all been taken care of by my uncle." Before the words had even finished, 3 little mud monkey-like kids ran in through the courtyard gate. They were the 3 from my uncle's family. The oldest only came up to my waist, and the youngest still wobbled when walking. Their 3 little faces were filthy, their clothes patched over patches, their bare feet stepping on the muddy ground. So skinny they were all skin and bones. Big brother, we want peanuts too." 3 pairs of eyes stared in unison at the peanuts on the table, their looks like starving little wolf pups. I pointed at the water jar in the corner of the yard. "Line up and wash your hands." The 3 little ones pushed and shoved their way to the water jar, stretching out 6 grimy little paws. I picked up the ladle and poured water for them one by one. "Scrub clean," I said as I poured water for them. "Big brother, this is wasting water." Lifu reminded me sensibly. At home, if they used water like this, they would definitely be punished. Chenxi froze for a moment, then patted his head, a little embarrassed. It's fine. Grandpa hurriedly smoothed things over. He thought to himself, so what if his eldest grandson used a few extra ladles of water? Later, Shuqiang, my uncle, can just carry back 2 more buckets. However, Chenxi did not give the younger kids peanuts. Instead, he took out the candy he had just snagged in a supermarket flash sale from his pocket and handed it out to them. "Eat it at home. Don't go outside. It's candy." The 2 brothers Lifu and Likai jumped up excitedly. Little Lifong also said in a babyish voice, "I've never gotten this much candy in my whole life." Chenxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry, thinking, "You're still so little, and you're already talking about your whole life." But he didn't correct her, only smiling as he patted Lifong's head. Nearby, Grandpa said to the 3 little ones, "You must remember your big brother's kindness from now on, understand?" The 2 brothers Lifu and Likai nodded solemnly. "We'll never forget it for our whole lives." Hearing this, Chenxi felt all sorts of mixed emotions and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He thought, why does that sound so strange? But seeing the innocent smiles on the 3 little ones' faces, he couldn't help smiling too. In the Sihiyuan, Uncle Su and his daughter-in-law returned together. Auntie couldn't wait to share a piece of news. "Do you know? Chenxi is such a good kid. He brought our family more than a dozen jin of flour. As soon as Uncle Su's widowed daughter-in-law heard this, she was overjoyed. These 15 jin of flour would undoubtedly be enough to keep their family going until next month's grain ration arrived. It truly solved their urgent need. Uncle Su also showed a look of relief. But then he thought about it and said, when he comes back next time, I should send 2 yuan over to him. Our family may still have money, but grain is really hard to buy. Even if you go to the pigeon market now, the price of grain is ridiculously high. He went on to explain that although the pigeon market originally started as a folk marketplace for selling pigeons, it later gradually developed into a large comprehensive market for all kinds of trade, even though it was not legal. Some people might confuse the pigeon market with the black market, but in fact there is still a difference between the two. The pigeon market is a marketplace that forms spontaneously among ordinary people, and there are usually stalls even during the day, selling mostly agricultural and sideline products. For markets like this, the authorities usually turn a blind eye, since they have to leave ordinary people away to survive. The black market, however, is different. It usually operates secretly at night, charges an entrance fee, and has people specifically assigned to guard it. The things sold inside are of all kinds, and quite a few are goods that cannot be brought into the light, somewhat similar to the legendary ghost market. At present, the price of flour in the pigeon market or the black market has already risen to 1 yuan per jin. Even so, many people are still willing to buy this overpriced grain, because if they do not have enough to eat, what else can they do? Even under these circumstances, flour is still a scarce commodity in the pigeon market and the black market. As long as it is grain, whether refined grain or coarse grain, it is in high demand. Those who are quick get it, those who are slow do not. Uncle Su knew very well that his family's grain ration would only keep getting smaller in the future, and they could not count on Chenxi to help them out every time, could they? And Chenxi worked in procurement, so he could get grain outside the planned allocation. Their family could buy some grain through Chenxi's channel, and that would be the only long-term solution to the problem. After hearing this, Auntie also nodded along. As she should. Chenxi isn't having an easy time either. Meanwhile, in Lijiazwang, Chenxi's grandmother may also have heard the news. Carrying a vegetable basket with only a few wild greens inside, she hurried back. Before she even reached the front door, she caught the fragrance of pork cracklings. By this time, the front of the house was already crowded with children from the village, all of them swallowing their saliva frantically. Chenxi came out carrying a small basin of pork cracklings, just about to hand them out to the children, when he saw that his grandmother had returned. "Grandma, you're back? Didn't I tell you not to go digging for wild greens anymore?" Chenxi said with a hint of reproach in his tone. The old lady smiled so broadly that the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes all bunched together. All right, I won't dig them anymore next time. As long as my eldest grandson comes back, I'll do whatever you want me to do." Seeing her grandson bring out a basin of pork cracklings to share with everyone, the old lady felt a slight pang of heartache, but even more than that, she felt gratified. As long as her own grandson was happy, nothing else mattered. "Old woman, come back quickly and make dumplings for my eldest grandson." The old lady answered and then hurried into the house. Only then did Chenxi start handing out the pork cracklings to the children. Line up properly, one at a time, no pushing. Each child got 2 pieces of pork cracklings, and after eating 1 piece, many of them could not bear to eat the other one, and carefully took it home. The children who got the pork cracklings all politely said thank you, and after eating them, they were still savoring the taste. So delicious, fragrant and crispy, and your whole mouth is full of oil. Chenxi looked at the fellow in front of him, who was almost as tall as he was, and widened his eyes. "How old are you? Why are you lining up to get food too?" The guy gave an embarrassed smile. "Uncle, give me 2 pieces, okay? I'll take them back for my little brother. He sprained his ankle and couldn't come." Chenxi looked at Lifu half believing, half doubting. He was not very familiar with many people in the village. Lifu nodded. "Big brother, Gooden really did sprain his ankle." Chenxi shook his head helplessly, but still gave that guy 2 extra pieces of pork cracklings. "Thanks, uncle." After handing out the cracklings, Chenxi went back inside. The old lady had already made a cup of sugar water. "Chenxi, come drink some sugar water." As for Lifu and the others, naturally there was none for them. "Okay, thanks, Grandma." Chenxi really enjoyed the old lady's pampering and downed the sugar water in 1 gulp, his mouth full of rich sweetness. "Is it hot? Have your grandpa fan you a little." Chenxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Grandma, no need. I'm not hot. If Grandpa fans me, that'd be too much for me." Not long after, his aunt Huanglan also arrived at the house. Oh my, Chenxi brought back so many things again. That's wonderful. Her face was full of joy as she calculated inwardly that no matter what, their family would be able to benefit a little too. At least the 3 children would get to eat something good. After a while I'll get some cloth back, and you can make a few sets of clothes for my grandpa and grandma. And for Lai Fu and the others, make 1 set too. When the time comes, I'll make clothes for the old couple, but forget Lai Fu and the others. Their clothes are still wearable. Hearing this, Chenxi rolled his eyes and muttered to himself, covered in patches, and that still counts as wearable. In the current environment, everyone followed the saying, patch and mend for another 3 years. What child didn't have a few patches on their clothes? Many were even altered from clothes adults no longer wore. I have connections at the textile factory and can get cloth, so don't worry. At this moment, the old man also spoke up. Xuqiang's wife, just do as my good grandson says. Huanglan quickly nodded in response. Uncle, I understand. The old lady then began lecturing the 3 little ones like Lai Fu. From now on, after a round of lecturing, she took Huanglan to the kitchen to get busy, preparing to make dumplings. When Huanglan saw the things Chenxi had brought back, her eyes went wide, and she kept exclaiming, Auntie, Chenxi is really amazing. As soon as the old lady heard that, she was overjoyed, though she smilingly scolded, Every one of you is so unpromising. Only my Chenxi is the most capable. Then she launched into another round of praising herself and boasting, praising Chenxi to the skies, while not forgetting to put others down a bit to elevate her precious grandson. Meanwhile, Chenxi's aunt Huanglan echoed the old lady's words from the side. After a little while longer, Chenxi's uncle Li Xuqiang returned home travel-worn, carrying 2 buckets of water on a shoulder pole. Seeing this, the old man didn't even let Li Xuqiang rest for a moment before instructing him. Chenxi came back today, so carry a few more buckets of water, so he can take a bath later. Alrighty. Li Xuqiang responded cheerfully without the slightest objection. He came here much more often than he went to his own parents' place. Everyone in the village knew it, and no one gossiped about it. Seeing this, Chenxi quickly said to the old man, Grandpa, let 3rd uncle rest for a bit. Then he turned to Li Xuqiang and said, 3rd uncle, I'll go carry water with you later. Li Xuqiang smiled and waved his hand. No need, no need. Chenxi, just sit properly at home. The place to fetch water from is a bit far now. The old well dried up, so we have to walk farther. Seeing his own grandson plead for Li Xuqiang, the old man went along with it and said, Then go after you've eaten. Later I'll allow you 2 drinks. Thanks, uncle. The moment Li Xuqiang heard that, he was so happy he was beside himself. Sweet potato liquor was a rare thing. Usually the old man secretly drank a cup by himself and rarely let him have any. For those 2 cups of sweet potato liquor, he had no complaints at all about carrying a few extra buckets of water, and was more than happy to do it. Originally, he could have gone to the village canteen to eat. But today the family was making dumplings, so who would still want to go to the canteen for that awful wild vegetable porridge? Not only did it taste bad, it wasn't filling at all. Huanglan, who was wrapping dumplings, couldn't help praising the flour again. This flour is really good. If Chenxi weren't eating at home, they might have had to mix something into the flour. Who uses refined flour directly to make dumplings? At this moment, every household in the village was talking about Chenxi, their words full of envy. Since their own children had all benefited from Chenxi, they naturally spared no praise when speaking of him. The freshly made dumplings were carefully placed on the table, and Grandma even specially stir-fried a small plate of crispy, fragrant peanuts, prepared just for Grandpa's drinking. The old man happily took out his treasured sweet potato liquor from the cabinet and asked Chenxi with a smile, Chenxi, would you like to have a couple of drinks with Grandpa? Chenxi smiled and nodded. Of course, Grandpa, I'll have a couple of drinks with you, but take it easy. Next time I come back, I'll bring you 2 bottles of good liquor. My dad still has a bottle of Matai put away. At the mention of Chenxi's father, the old man's face instantly darkened. Don't mention that bastard. What an unfilial son, the old man said angrily, thinking to himself that with such good liquor, he still didn't know to bring it back to honor his old father. Compared with his well-behaved grandson, he was worlds apart. Back then, he had worked so hard to put him through school, thinking he would be able to enjoy an easy life later. But who knew that after getting married, he would forget his parents? And after going to the city, he came home less and less often. Now it's even more outrageous. He actually ran off with a widow and went to slave away for her family. Still, that brat's only contribution was leaving them with Chenxi, this good grandson, so they had someone to rely on in their old age. Seeing this, Chenxi quickly changed the subject. The old man usually talked a lot, but Chenxi could not. After all, old Li had already fulfilled his responsibilities to him as a father and could not be faulted. The fragrant peanuts and dumplings whetted everyone's appetite, especially the three little ones, Lai Fu, Lai Kai, and Lai Fong, who were devouring them ravenously. "Big brother, can we still have dumplings tonight?" Little Lai Fong asked innocently. In her memory, they could only eat a few dumplings during the new year, and they tasted far worse than today's. Lai Fu and Lai Kai also couldn't help looking at Chenxi, their eyes full of anticipation. Their mother glared at them. "Dream on, and you're still thinking about eating them again tonight? One meal isn't enough, and you want to eat them several times in a row? Keep dreaming." In the past, only landlords could afford to eat them every day, right? If Big Brother Chenxi hadn't come back, they wouldn't even have gotten more than a few bites of wild vegetable buns. "Oh," the three little ones responded disappointedly. Seeing this, Chenxi smiled and comforted them. "We're not eating dumplings tonight. We're eating meat." The moment the three little ones heard this, their eyes immediately lit up. "Meat? That's great," their aunt said to them sternly. "Tonight you're going home to eat, and you're not allowed to." Chenxi interrupted her. "Auntie, everyone come eat together." Aunt Huanglan hesitated, her eyes darting from time to time toward Chenxi's grandmother. The old lady noticed this and clicked her tongue, saying with a hint of reproach, "My grandson is inviting you all over. You really don't stand on ceremony. Then come on over. Consider yourselves lucky to get such a good meal." Huanglan and her husband exchanged a smile, quietly feeling grateful. Actually, the two of them were doing all right. It was mainly the three children they felt sorry for. They were always thinking of ways to nourish them as much as possible, so they shamelessly agreed. After the meal, third uncle Li Shuqiang got ready to head out to work, and he patted his stomach with emotion. "It's been a long time since I've eaten this full." Chenxi followed him outside. "Third uncle, after I'm not around here anymore, I'll have to trouble you to look after grandpa and grandma a bit more," Chenxi said with a sincere expression. Li Shuqiang took a comfortable deep drag on his cigarette and grinned. "Ah, did you really need to remind me specially? Don't worry in the slightest. Out here in the countryside, with me keeping an eye on things, nothing will go wrong." Li Shuqiang's face suddenly changed, and he quickly said to Chenxi, "Chenxi, let's stop here for today. We'll talk again later." The village is probably cutting off the flow and fighting over water again. In this era, water is life. Crops, especially wheat, would suffer badly in yield if they lacked water. Besides wheat, the village also grew corn, and it too was at a critical stage of growth. Chenxi curiously followed along as well, wanting to see the commotion. As they passed the wheat fields, he noticed cracks had already appeared in the soil. No wonder the villagers were so anxious. The village was almost out of grain and was waiting for the wheat in the fields to save their lives. The small river that flowed past Lijiazwang now had almost no visible current. Very soon, the young men of Lijiazwang had gathered together, hose in hand. Some were even carrying hunting rifles. Led by the old village party secretary, the crowd surged menacingly toward Shangshui village, with all the air of marching there to demand an explanation. Chenxi was still thinking things over when the old party secretary suddenly came up to him. "Chenxi, I heard you work in purchasing at the factory, is that right?" the old party secretary asked. Chenxi looked up at him and nodded with a smile. If our village ever has anything to sell in the future, you can come to me. As for the price, it'll definitely be higher than the supply and marketing cooperative's purchase price." In fact, Chenxi knew the situation perfectly well. There wasn't much the villagers could produce. They barely had enough to eat. So how could they afford to sell anything? Can it be exchanged for grain? "Anything is fine, like cornmeal," the old party secretary asked again. Chenxi was slightly taken aback. "Exchange with what?" The old party secretary gritted his teeth and said, "If possible, tomorrow I'll organize some people to go into the mountains and see if we can bring back a wild boar." The wild boars in the mountains were no easy opponents, but to keep the villagers from starving to death, they could only risk trying. Chenxi asked again, "Do you want sweet potatoes? They can be exchanged for more." He quickly ran through the goods currently in his backpack in his mind. There was no cornmeal. The supermarket stock was still incomplete, with only a pitiful few items for now. And the supermarket's flour was different from the cornmeal of this era. This was corn flour ground purely from corn kernels, with no corn cobs mixed in. Compared with the goods in his backpack, sweet potatoes were undoubtedly the cheapest thing he had on hand right now. At present, sweet potatoes on the market were selling for 3 cents per jean, and on the black market the price was even more outrageous. More than 5 cents, and even if you had money, you still might not be able to buy any. If sweet potatoes appeared on the market, they would be snapped up immediately. He could sell them to Li Jiazhuang at a low price, but definitely not too low, otherwise. Besides, Li Chenxi had no intention of doing charity. Moreover, he was in urgent need of money right now because there was a funnel discount supermarket. Otherwise, once the system balance was used up, he would only be left drooling. Although there were only 100 Gene now, there was no guarantee that once more products were unlocked later, he still wouldn't be able to buy them. Besides, sweet potatoes were relatively cheap in any supermarket. As for sweet potatoes, in later generations, in the whole supermarket, it was the kind of item at the very bottom when it came to paying with cash. He believed 58 supermarket was no exception, and wild boars weren't that easy to hunt either. If so, they'd take whatever was offered, especially something as good as sweet potatoes. Chenxi, tell me, how much do you have, and how much can we trade for? Li Chenxi thought for a moment and said, let's exchange based on weight. I'll prepare some first, but you'll need to give me a few days. The old village secretary was overjoyed when he heard this. He hurriedly thanked him. And as things stood, a wild boar weighing 100 Gene normally couldn't sell for 100 yuan. Wild boar meat is cheaper than domestic pork, with less fat, and the meat is tougher. Still, Chenxi, just wait and see, and expect my good news. The old village secretary said gratefully. Secretary, you're being too polite. I'm also a part of Li Jiazhuang myself. Li Chenxi said with a smile. As expected of an educated person, that was really well said. Almost everyone in Li Jiazhuang had the surname Li. Even if the bones were broken, the tendons were still connected, and nearly every household was related in one way or another. Take Li Chenxi and the old village secretary's family, for example. Strictly speaking, they were also somewhat related, just already beyond the 5 degrees of mourning, so the relationship wasn't that close. Beyond the 5 degrees of mourning, men and women could marry, because there was no longer any direct blood relation. Generally speaking, the kinship range represented by the 5 degrees of mourning includes the generations of great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, and one's own siblings, making a total of 5 generations. In other words, people of your same generation are considered beyond the 5 degrees of mourning if they are not descendants of the same great-great-grandparent. After more than 5 generations, one no longer observes mourning for them. This is called leaving the mourning kinship range, also called going beyond the 5 degrees of mourning. In ancient times, however, the earliest 5 degrees of mourning actually referred to 5 different ranks of dress for the Son of Heaven, feudal lords, ministers, great officers, and scholars. Among the common people, the 5 degrees of mourning later evolved into 5 kinds of mourning dress distinguished by the closeness of kinship. This is something that probably many people today do not really understand. Very soon, the people of Li Jiazhuang arrived at Shanxue village, and the people of the 2 villages began confronting each other. First, they argued it out and reasoned with each other. But who would have thought? The people of Shanxue village were also quite wrong, because there was hardly any water left in their stretch of the river either. See for yourselves. The village chief of Shanxue village said bluntly. This time, the people of Li Jiazhuang were completely dumbfounded. It couldn't be said there was absolutely no water, but the flow was indeed very small. Even if Shanxue village didn't use any at all, it still might not reach Li Jiazhuang. For a time, the people of both villages became worried, and the atmosphere turned somewhat heavy. If this continued, grain output would drop sharply again, and people really could die. The village chief of Shanxue village took a puff of his dry tobacco and asked the old village secretary of Li Jiazhuang, "Oldly, does your village still have any grain? Share a little with us." And when? Before he could finish speaking, the old village secretary interrupted him. "We can only hold out for a few more days ourselves. I was just about to ask your village to lend us some too." Well then, we really are fellow sufferers. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, the old village secretary led the people of Li Jiazhuang back. But the water problem still gave them a great headache. Their Li Jiazhuang still had a spring, which was the villagers' domestic water source that they depended on for survival. Ever since the original well dried up, everyone had been going to that spring to carry water home for drinking. So now it seems the village spring well has to be properly put into operation and can't be left neglected. That being the case, everyone's household water use will have to be controlled. Li Shuqiang's original plan to carry a few extra buckets of water today was probably going to fall through. "Third uncle, it's no big deal. I can just go to the city later for a scrub bath," Li Chenxi said to Li Shuqiang. The whole village had to do the same, so he couldn't exactly make an exception for himself, could he? However, for the sake of his grandparents' quality of life, Li Chenxi thought of a hand-operated water pump. If one were installed beside the house, using water would be much more convenient. Don't be fooled by the fact that there's no water now and there's a drought. In fact, there's plenty of groundwater. You just need to find a good spot and drill downward. It's estimated that at a depth of about 10-odd meters, water may come out. It's not like in the 90s and the 20th century, when groundwater was exploited and used like crazy, causing the water table to drop severely, and in some places you have to drill more than 100 meters to get water. But this pump is easy to operate and can pump up groundwater from about 10 meters underground. His old home in his previous life had one, so he knew it fairly well. This thing doesn't involve much technical complexity. It only has a few parts. And although it's hard for a layman to replicate, for Chenxi at the factory, it couldn't be simpler. He could have one made just by finding an experienced master craftsman. Thinking of this, he wanted to return to the steel factory immediately to start preparing. Chenxi, you head back first. I'll see if I can carry a bit more. Li Shuqiang was clearly still unwilling to give up. Chenxi was busy thinking about the hand-operated water pump and didn't pay him any attention. After returning to his grandfather's house, Chenxi began drawing blueprints. Besides the components, he also needed to make a drilling rod for the well. Seeing him writing and drawing, his grandparents didn't disturb him, and they even chased away the 3 children, including Lifu, so that he could focus on the design. By dusk, Chenxi had completed the blueprint designs for all the parts. At this moment, third uncle came back carrying water. Weren't they saying that from now on each household had to fetch water by quota? Chenxi asked in surprise. Li Shuqiang chuckled and said a little slyly, "The old village party secretary knew I was carrying it for your family, so he didn't stop me." Not only did the old village party secretary say nothing, the other villagers had no objections either. It couldn't be helped. When you've received favors from someone, it's hard to refuse them. Their children had all eaten Chenxi's food. So what's the big deal about using a few extra buckets of water now? Chenxi shook his head slightly and said, "Once or twice is fine, but don't do this again in the future. It's easy to make people bear a grudge." The old man also agreed with what his good grandson said. Chenxi is right. Starting tomorrow, let's follow the village's rules. Especially in times like these. We have to pay even more attention to fairness and justice. We can't make exceptions, otherwise it will be hard to unite and get through the difficulties together. Since both Chenxi and the old man said so, Li Shuqiang stopped insisting, and instead secretly felt relieved. Those villagers might not have said anything, but who knew what they were really thinking? The old village party secretary is planning to organize some people to go into the mountains tomorrow. Li Shuqiang changed the subject. Chenxi knew this matter best in his heart, so he wasn't surprised. In his view, the plot of running into a retired cadre while hunting or fishing in the mountains seemed to be a trope that many transmigrators were fond of, but he felt it was somewhat unnecessary. After all, whether hunting or fishing, in the end it was all just for obtaining supplies. He had the supermarket as his cheat ability. As long as he had money, he wouldn't have to worry about lacking resources, so there was no need to bother with all that. As for the black market plotline, he figured he would also secretly peddle a few things there. Otherwise, how would he make money? Of course, the premise for all this was ensuring his own safety. As for the plot of encountering a retired old man by chance, he felt it was simply absurd. How could it be so easy to run into one? We really should go into the mountains to scrounge up something to eat. Old Masterly felt this was only natural. When the crops in the fields aren't enough to eat, if you still don't know to go into the mountains to find something to eat, then there's seriously something wrong with your head. Rather than starving to death, it's better to take a risk and try your luck in the mountains. When eating meat that night, Chenxi didn't eat much, mainly because there were no seasonings, so the meat didn't taste very good. Without seasonings, just boiling or stir-frying it with a little salt. How good could it taste? But Grandpa and Grandma mistakenly thought Chenxi was deliberately letting them eat more, and were moved all over again. The old lady kept putting meat into Chenxi's bowl, leaving him both amused and helpless. Lifu, Kai, and Lifong seemed to have all been warned by their mother. After eating just 3 pieces of meat, they didn't dare take any more. But they already felt very happy, because now their family was the only one in the whole village that could eat meat. Early the next morning, when Chenxi woke up, he found that Grandma had already made steamed buns and boiled eggs. The 2 elders had already eaten. What they ate were cornmeal wawatu. To keep Chenxi from seeing it, they had even gotten up early and eaten early on purpose. Although their eldest grandson had brought back quite a lot of food, the 2 elders still wanted to save the good things for him and were content to eat whatever themselves. Chenxi noticed the crumbs of wawatu on the ground and immediately pretended to get angry, threatening, "Grandma, If you still eat Wowatan next time, I won't come back anymore." Seeing that their eldest grandson had seen through them, the old lady quickly promised, "All right, we won't eat cornmeal next time. Later, Grandma will have your aunt take all the cornmeal back for them to eat." She didn't want to make her own grandson angry. If he stopped coming back in the future, the two of them would cry their hearts out. Big brother, Big Brother." Lai Fu and the others ran in, but when they saw that Big Brother was eating breakfast, they sensibly backed out again. "Where are you going? Come in, all of you." Chenxi called toward the doorway. He peeled the egg and ate only the egg white, leaving behind 3 yolks. Only then did the 3 siblings walk in unhurriedly, secretly watching the old lady's expression as they came. The old lady told them that when they grew up, they had to repay Big Brother, and absolutely must not become ungrateful wretches, and so on. "Give it a try?" Chenxi handed the egg yolks in his hand to the 3 siblings, 1 each. Actually, he himself didn't like eating egg yolks, finding them too dry. "Grandma, I need to go back to the city later to take care of something. Tell the village party secretary that if they really do catch a wild boar, they should come to the city to find me and transport the boar over. It'd be best to bring an ox cart, otherwise they won't be able to haul it. In a few days, I'll come back to visit you and Grandpa," Chenxi said to the old lady. As soon as the old lady heard that her grandson was going back to the city, an expression of reluctance appeared on her face, but when she heard that he would come back again in a couple of days, she felt at ease. "All right, Grandma will have your grandpa go tell the old party secretary." The old lady agreed with a beaming smile. Chenxi didn't dawdle either. After taking a drink of water, he set off back to Suzhou City. At the same time, he was checking on the supermarket status in his mind. Today, the system's 1 yuan flash sale section had finished refreshing, and it had actually turned into 100 jin of rice and 100 jin of beef jerky. Without another word, Chenxi spent 2 yuan and snapped them both up. 100 jin of beef jerky. This was simply a huge profit. If he took it to the black market to sell, even at 5 yuan per jin, it would be bought up in an instant, especially since buying things now didn't require ration coupons. After returning to the courtyard house, he put the 50 jin of eggs into the procurement basket, planning to take them to the steel factory to fulfill his task. After all, he hadn't been back to the factory for a whole day already. As a procurement officer, although the job was fairly flexible, he couldn't just completely run wild and ignore everything. From time to time, he still had to report to the factory, show his face, and let the leaders know his whereabouts. After all, the minimum monthly procurement quota was a hard target. If he failed to complete it, there would be no way to explain himself. Chenxi secretly calculated that he already had 50 jin of eggs in hand. If the village came through and could get a wild boar, then this month's performance wouldn't just meet the target. It would steadily exceed it. In that case, his performance at the factory would definitely catch the leader's attention, and his work might go more smoothly in the future as well. He had only just returned to the courtyard house and hadn't even had time to catch his breath when Annie came right after him, carrying a brand new pair of cloth shoes and clutching 2 yuan in her hand, hurrying over to his door. Auntie beamed with a smile, her eyes full of gratitude, and said, "Chenxi, we've finally been waiting for you to come back. Auntie specially made these shoes for you, so you must accept them. And here's these 2 yuan. It may not be much, but it's a little token of Auntie's appreciation." Chenxi hurried over and took the cloth shoes with both hands. Feeling the fine stitching on the soles, his heart warmed. But he firmly pushed back the hand with the money Annie was offering him and said sincerely, "Auntie, you're being too formal. With this pair of cloth shoes, I'm already happier than I can say. I also made quite a bit from helping this time, so I really can't take this money. Keep it and buy yourself something good to eat to improve your meals a little." You had to know that in those days, a pair of cloth shoes was quite valuable, probably worth around 5 yuan. As for this pair alone, Chenxi was even thinking of making up some money or giving Auntie something else in return. But Auntie insisted on stuffing the money into his hand. "It's different. The cloth shoes are a gift from Annie to you. Actually, I may still need to trouble you in the future. I want to buy some food from you. Is that okay?" So that was what she was really after. "Sure. Auntie, please wait a moment," Chenxi replied. As he spoke, Chenxi brought out a small basket of eggs from the room and handed it to Annie as a return gift. He knew full well that some advantages couldn't just be taken casually. Although eggs were a bit cheaper than meat, they were still a little more expensive than grain like rice. Probably 30 or 40 cents a jin. With a warm expression, Chenxi held the eggs in both hands and offered them to Auntie, saying earnestly, "Auntie, look, these are eggs I specially bought back. You know Dongzi and the others are growing, and they need nutrition the most. Please take some back and give the children something nourishing. Auntie, please don't stand on ceremony with me. Just accept them gladly. If you insist on not taking them, then I can't accept these cloth shoes either. You'd better take them back, otherwise I'll really feel bad about it." Carrying that basket of eggs, Auntie felt a jumble of emotions inside. This was truly help in a time of need. "Auntie, your craftsmanship is absolutely amazing. These cloth shoes are so beautifully made, and they fit especially well. The moment I put them on, they reminded me of the feeling of the shoes my grandmother made for me when I was little. It made my heart feel all warm. My grandpa and grandma have always talked about wanting a good pair of shoes like these. Auntie, if you have the time, could you help me make 2 more pairs? I want to take them back for them and make the elderly happy too." He paused slightly, then after thinking for a moment, continued, "Auntie, I can't let you work for nothing either. Food is scarce right now, and life isn't easy for anyone, so I'll trade grain with you. What do you think of that? You provide the craftsmanship, I'll provide the grain, and neither of us loses out. If you agree, you'll be doing me a huge favor, and my grandpa and grandma will definitely be very grateful to you." Chenxi knew clearly in his heart that his grandpa and grandma were old now and didn't have any overly high demands for clothes or shoes. They only hoped for something comfortable and dependable to wear. Auntie's cloth shoes were simple in style, finely made, and soft on the feet, the very kind his grandparents liked. If his grandparents received shoes like these, they would surely be overjoyed and keep talking about them. Originally, Chenxi had planned to buy them at the supermarket, but since Auntie's workmanship was so good, there was no harm in having her make them. It would kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so why not? Hearing this, Auntie was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly in agreement, carefully asking what shoe sizes to make. She couldn't help but sigh inwardly that Chenxi was such a filial child. He still constantly kept his grandparents back in the countryside on his mind. Setting everything else aside, this filial devotion alone was enough to make people envious beyond measure. Auntie happily carried that basket of eggs back home, her steps becoming much lighter. After returning home, her little grandson Dong Dong came over and hugged her leg, his eyes fixed intently on those eggs, practically glowing. "Be good, Dong Dong. From now on, when you see your brother Chenxi, you need to be polite, understand? He gave us all these. Tonight Grandma will make you egg drop soup." As she stroked Dong Dong's head, Auntie also taught him to be grateful. The little fellow nodded solemnly. "Grandma, Dong Dong understands. Last time, I even helped brother Chenxi wipe his bicycle." Chenxi looked at the good person cards *2 in the supermarket backpack and fell into deep thought. Sure enough, doing one good deed earned 1 good person card, and good person cards could unlock new items in the supermarket. Good person card, used successfully. Good person card, used successfully. Ding dong, congratulations on unlocking the vegetable section. This time, 1 good person card was consumed. Ding dong, congratulations on unlocking the food section. This time, 1 good person card was consumed. Chenxi looked at how most of the goods only cost a few cents or dimes, and his heart blossomed with joy. Now this looked a bit like a supermarket, though the supermarket before him was at most like a corner store. But it already had everything it should have and was beginning to take the shape of a supermarket. There was absolutely no need to worry about those sweet potatoes anymore. At present, the supermarket had 4 major sections: 1 yuan flash sale, meat section, vegetable section, and food section. In this era of scarce supplies, having a supermarket full of dazzling goods was undoubtedly the highlight of one's life. I'm getting rich. I'll do more good deeds and rise to the pinnacle of life. I want to become the #1 philanthropist. There weren't many secrets that could be kept in the courtyard, and besides, the transaction between Chenxi and Auntie had been completely above board, with nothing hidden. Very soon, basically all the aunties in the courtyard knew about it. "In our courtyard, Chenxi is the only one who still has surplus grain," one auntie said with emotion. "Being in procurement is great for Chenxi. He's much better than that useless brat of mine." Another auntie said enviously, "I have a niece who works at the textile factory." Another day, just as one auntie was about to say something, the informed auntie beside her cut her off. "What are you thinking? Old Lee already arranged it long ago," the informed auntie said. "Huh? Chenxi already has someone?" that auntie asked in surprise. When Old Lee was drinking at my house before, he mentioned it a little," the informed auntie replied. "That's really a pity. With Chenxi's conditions, marrying into his family would mean a life of comfort," that auntie said regretfully. "Exactly. He has a bike and a house, and he's good looking too, and a buyer's terms are even more enviable." Those aunties were all calculating in their hearts that if they really didn't have enough to eat in the future, they would also go to Chenxi to buy some, but asking him to give it away for free or lend it. They couldn't bring themselves to say that. Chenxi did some simple tidying up at home and took out the clothes he had worn to wash them. When men do laundry, well, it's just like that. Rub a few times, stomp a few times, wring a few times, and it's done. After finishing all that, he locked the door and then went to the steel factory to report back. As for that practice of not allowing people to lock their doors, only the courtyard where Silly Zhu lived could come up with something like that. If something got stolen, whose fault would it be? Even if there were no thieves. What if a stray cat or something ran in and knocked things over? That would still be a loss. The steel factory where Chenxi worked was the largest steel factory in the capital, even bigger than the Hongqing rolling mill where Silly Zhu worked, and it had been established as early as the early Republic of China period. Such a huge factory, with over 10,000 people, consumed an astonishing amount of grain. So their procurement department was divided into 4 sections, and each section had 5 teams under it. Chenxi was in the 5th team of the 4th procurement section. Their team leader was Wang Weimin, and there were 10 people in their team in total. Right now Wang Weimin was having a headache. The section chief had issued a strict order, requiring each team to do everything possible to increase procurement volume, because the factory had also begun to face a grain crisis. The cafeteria had repeatedly cut back on the workers' meals. It was said that yesterday another worker fainted from hunger, but fortunately this time it did not cause a production accident. But things were hard for procurement staff like them too. They had already gone all over the villages and communes around the capital, and there was truly nothing left to scrape together to eat. Now the countryside was having an even harder time than the city. If they wanted to increase procurement volume, the only option was to go farther away. Chenxi is back. Hearing the team members' words, Wang Weimin immediately turned to look, only to see Chenxi walk in carrying a huge procurement basket on his back. Be careful, it's full of eggs on top. Chenxi reminded them. As soon as everyone heard that, they hurried over to help lift the procurement basket. Wow, so many eggs. Chenxi, where did you go to procure these? Wang Weimin was also pleasantly surprised by this little surprise. There were several hundred eggs, which was quite considerable. I went a bit farther this time, so I didn't come back for the past 2 or 3 days. Chenxi explained. Not only did Wang Weimin not blame him, he even praised him in public. Chenxi did well. You should all learn from him. See, as long as you're willing to go farther away, there are still supplies to be found. Huh, what's underneath? Is that jerky down there? Wang Weimin quickly discovered the secret in the procurement basket. Chenxi smiled and explained. I ran into a fellow villager on the road. His relatives on the grasslands had sent him dozens of jin of beef jerky. He couldn't finish it all, so I took it off his hands, though the price was a bit high. When Wang Weimin heard this, he was overjoyed and quickly waved his hand, saying, It's fine if the price is a bit high, as long as it's good stuff. As long as the procurement price isn't outrageous and it's good stuff, there's no problem. The normal procurement price here was not the market price, but the low price offered by the Rural Supply and Marketing Cooperative. Therefore, many villagers were more willing to sell supplies to procurement agents from big factories like theirs. This was a rare sight indeed. Jerky. Their steel factory had not procured such good stuff in a long time. Team leader, can we keep a little for ourselves? Someone stared at that pile of jerky, practically drooling, and began making little calculations. Skimming off a small amount of supplies was also one of the unspoken rules of the procurement section. Of course, this wasn't taking it for free, but buying a little to take home at the procurement price, which was also allowed internally. But if the goods had already been received and inspected, then they couldn't touch them anymore. Wang Weimin thought for a moment and said, We won't keep any jerky this time, but as for the eggs, each person can keep about 1 jin. Just give the money to Chenxi. Although everyone felt a little regretful, they thought having eggs was pretty good too, so they all started picking out eggs. In the end, each of them picked 10 eggs, about 1 jin in weight, and gave Chenxi 0.3 yuan. Wang Weimin then took the jerky and the remaining eggs to be registered and entered into the accounts. The jerky was calculated at 2.5 yuan per jin, while the eggs were 0.4 yuan per jin. Right now beef and pork cost about the same, and beef was even a bit cheaper. However, you should know that it takes 3 jin of beef to make 1 jin of beef jerky. So 2.5 yuan per jin for beef jerky was also a reasonable price. After Chenxi signed his name, he received 141 yuan. The beef jerky and the chicken were 125 yuan and 16 yuan respectively. If he took these things to sell on the black market, they would definitely fetch a higher price. No wonder so many people liked selling things on the black market. But retailing them bit by bit on the black market was too troublesome, and still take risks. After careful consideration, Chenxi still decided to sell these things to the steel factory for the time being. Chenxi was not in a hurry to put all the money in his hands into the supermarket in his mind. After all, he also had to keep some money in real life for emergencies. At noon, he ate a simple meal at the factory, but the food was really mediocre, and he found it a bit hard to get used to. In the afternoon, Chenxi slacked off at the factory to kill time. Meanwhile, back in Lijiazwang, the villagers who had gone into the mountains returned with full loads. The smiles beaming on their faces made it obvious that this trip into the mountains had been quite fruitful. 2 wild boars weighing over 100 jin each were carried out by the villagers working together. Chenxi has already gone back to the city? All right, then I'll organize some people to deliver them to him, the old village secretary said with a smile. He had no intention at all of keeping even a bit of the meat for the village. What meat is there to eat? Wouldn't it be better to trade it for sweet potatoes? The 2 fat pigs in front of them were plump and sturdy, and really quite large. After taking a careful look, they estimated that the 2 pigs together weighed about 280 jin. Removing the heads, trotters, and entrails, the net weight would most likely be around 200 jin. This was no small matter. At the current market rate, they could be exchanged for nearly 8,000 jin of sweet potatoes. At the thought of this, the villagers' eyes lit up. 8,000 jin of sweet potatoes. What an enormous pile that would be. It would be enough for their entire village to hold out from now until the grain harvest. At dusk, the villagers of Lijiazwang finally delivered the 2 wild boars to Chenxi's Sihiyuan in the city. So this is where Chenxi lives in the city. Ah, if only I were lucky enough to live in a house like this too. That would be wonderful. A young man said enviously. A slightly plump middle-aged man with a somewhat stern face immediately frowned, reached out, and gave him a light slap on the head, then said with a straight face, "Is Chenxi a name you can call him by directly? Do you even have any respect for your elders? Stop daydreaming all day about impossible things, even thinking about living in the city." At this moment, an auntie from the Sihiyuan came out and asked, "Fellow villagers, this is?" "Comrade, hello. We're from Chenxi's hometown." Upon learning that they were from Chenxi's rural hometown, the auntie immediately let down her guard, and her attitude became much warmer. "You must be here to see Chenxi, right? Chenxi is still busy at work and hasn't gotten off yet. But judging by the usual time, he probably ought to be back before long. Why don't you rest here for a bit first and wait patiently?" Just then, Chenxi, who had gotten off work early, came back at an unhurried pace. "You're here?" Chenxi greeted them warmly. The middle-aged man leading the group, the one who had just smacked the young man on the head, was called Li Dagawei, and by seniority, he had to address Chenxi as uncle. 16th uncle, the old village secretary told us to deliver the wild boars. As he spoke, Li Dagawei lifted the dry grass on the ox cart, revealing the 2 wild boars that had already gone cold. At the sight of them, the auntie gasped sharply. Chenxi was also a little surprised. He hadn't expected the village to catch 2 wild boars this time. "Dagawei, you all go sit in my house for a while first. I'll take the wild boars to the steel factory." Chenxi arranged. 16th uncle, will help you. The young man, thinking himself quite sensible, volunteered eagerly to help. Mainly, he also wanted to go to the steel factory and broaden his horizons. However, Li Dagawei smacked him on the head again. The old village secretary had told him about trading the wild boars for sweet potatoes. This was a private deal between 16th uncle and the factory, and it couldn't be made public. The fewer people who know, the better. What are you going along for? You really have no sense. 16th uncle, we'll wait for you here in the Sihiyuan, Li Dagawei said to Chenxi. Chenxi nodded. "There's food in the cupboard. Help yourselves and have a little something to fill your stomachs." After saying that, he turned to the auntie beside him and said, "Auntie, sorry to trouble you to show them the way." After making the arrangements, Chenxi covered the wild boars with dry grass again and drove the ox cart toward the steel factory. The section chief had specifically told him today that if he could work harder to bring back more supplies, he could become a regular ahead of schedule, and his salary could also rise to 28.5 yuan. With these 2 wild boars, becoming a regular was practically a sure thing. In fact, even if he turned in only 1, it would still be more than enough for him to become a regular. When he reached the gate of the steel factory, the gatekeeper uncle asked in a somewhat surprised tone, "Hadn't you already gotten off work?" Chenxi stopped, handed him a cigarette, and said with a smile, "Got hold of some good stuff. Wait to eat meat tomorrow." The gatekeeper uncle's eyes lit up at once when he heard that, and he looked toward the things on the ox cart and quickly opened the gate. Get in, get in. Bringing meat back to the factory really makes you a great benefactor. After entering the factory, Chenxi immediately informed his boss, Section Chief Wang. When Section Chief Wang heard the news, he was both shocked and delighted. 2 wild boars. Good lad. Your regularization will happen in the next couple of days. Come on, take me to have a look. He wasn't low-key at all, and even deliberately spread the news along the way. His subordinate had gotten 2 wild boars, and they still expected him to keep a low profile? Impossible. At last, it was their 4th section, 5th unit's turn to hold their heads high. Everyone had to know about it. When the people from the other units in the purchasing section heard it, they all felt sour with envy. What kind of dumb luck was this? The other unit chiefs began scolding the buyers under them, asking whether they still wanted to make progress. If they did, then they had better work harder. Very soon, a large crowd gathered around, staring at the 2 wild boars Chenxi had brought and swallowing continuously. Hurry up and process them, weigh and register them, then pay him, Wang Weiman said to the person in charge of receiving them. 2 burly men came from the canteen, carrying butcher knives, and skillfully removed the boar's bristles and gutted them. Chenxi, this is Section Chief Zheng of our 4th section. Wang Weiman took the opportunity to introduce Chenxi. Hello, Section Chief Zheng. Chenxi greeted him respectfully. Section Chief Zheng was in an exceptionally good mood today. He patted Chenxi on the shoulder to show friendliness. Chenxi, right? You've got a promising future. Work hard. Are there any difficulties in your work? Section Chief, I don't have any difficulties. It's just that whenever I have to procure large amounts of supplies, it takes a lot of time and effort. Could you approve a bicycle for me? That way I could go farther for procurement. The section chief thought for a moment and said, Section Chief Wang, if I remember correctly, our section still has a second-hand one, right? The one old Zhang left behind when he stepped down last year. Yes, Section Chief. When Deputy Section Chief Zhang retired, there really was still a bicycle. Then give it to Comrade Chenxi to make his work easier to carry out. Thank you, Section Chief. Thank you, Unit Chief. I will definitely work hard and give it my all, and not let the leaders down. Before long, the tally came out. The net weight of the 2 wild boars was 203 jin. After efforts by Section Chief Wang and Section Chief Zheng, the factory decided to book them at a price of 0.9 yuan per jin. Although this was slightly higher than the market pork price of 0.8 yuan per jin, no one had any objections. After all, meat was really hard to find now. Not to mention 0.9 yuan. Even 1 yuan, their factory would have to pay it. They couldn't let this meat that was already at their lips fly away. So Chenxi took in another 182.7 yuan. Adding the previous 141 yuan, the funds in his hands had already exceeded 300 yuan. On the way back to the courtyard house, Chenxi deliberately piled sack after sack of sweet potatoes onto the ox cart, a full 2,000 jin in all, so much that even the old ox pulling the cart seemed to be struggling a little, as if expressing its dissatisfaction. Back home, Li Dagawei and the others looked at the cupboard filled with all kinds of rice, flour, eggs, beef jerky, and other items, their eyes full of envy. Although they were all already hungry, not a single person reached out to take anything. As soon as Chenxi came in and saw them all sitting obediently at the table, he couldn't help asking curiously, "Aren't you hungry?" "We're not hungry," Li Dagawei and the others answered in unison. But as soon as the words left their mouths, someone's stomach let out an untimely growl. "Of course you're hungry. You weren't full to begin with, and then you jolted all the way into the city hauling that wild boar." Chenxi looked utterly helpless, his eyelids drooping as he rolled his eyes, muttering to himself about this messy situation. Then he raised his voice and quickly ordered, "Someone get out there and keep an eye on the stuff on the ox cart. Watch everything carefully for me, and don't let anyone take advantage of the chaos and swipe something. And you, hurry to the kitchen, get the fire going, and cook a bowl of noodles or something. Move quickly, don't dawdle." Hearing this, Li Dagawei immediately took someone outside to guard the sweet potatoes. They were the villagers' life-saving food, and nothing could be allowed to go wrong. Chenxi directly took out some noodles and cracked a few eggs into them, quickly cooking a big pot. "Stop dawdling and hurry up with your chopsticks. Eat more. Once you're full, you'll have the strength. As soon as you're done eating, we'll head back right away. Just look at the time. It isn't early anymore, so don't delay." Chenxi called out to them. Li Dali and the others looked at the noodles in the pot, swallowing constantly. Those were noodles, and there were quite a few eggs poached in them too. Looking at this pot of fragrant food, everyone's memories instantly drifted far away as they tried hard to recall when they had last eaten this well. With a flash in their minds, It seemed they had returned to the time when the village canteen had just opened. Back then, everyone gathered together. Though the food could hardly be called delicacies, they ate with hearty enjoyment. But counting on their fingers, goodness, 2 whole years had already passed. Chenxi handed out the large sea bowls one by one to everyone. Everyone hurriedly took their bowls and picked up noodles from the pot, not caring about their usual manners at all. They simply squatted to the side and began eating big mouthful after big mouthful, as if trying to brand this long unseen deliciousness deep into their hearts. Bowl after bowl, until each person had eaten 3 bowls. Everyone finally let out a long breath and contentedly set down their bowls and chopsticks, their bellies round and full, their whole bodies radiating an indescribable comfort. Chenxi's gaze fell on Dagawei as he said solemnly, "Dagawei, go back and tell the old village secretary that the village should hurry and send people to haul the remaining 6,000 or so jin of sweet potatoes. Be careful on the road. The sweet potatoes are the hope of the whole village, so absolutely nothing must happen." Before leaving, Chenxi did not forget to remind Li Dagawei. "Okay, 16th uncle, don't worry," Li Dagawei responded. The group drove the ox cart, slowly making their way toward Lijiazwang. After they had gone quite a distance, one villager couldn't help reaching out to pat his round belly, his face glowing with a satisfied smile tinged with a bit of anticipation as he sighed. "Ah, this time we really had a good meal. If we come again next time and can still eat our fill like this, that would be wonderful." The moment these words were spoken, it was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, instantly stirring up 1,000 ripples. The people around him all snapped back to themselves and unconsciously licked their lips. Images of those steaming bowls of noodles piled with eggs involuntarily surfaced in their minds. That rich aroma, the smooth and springy noodles, and the tender, delicious eggs seemed to still linger on their tongues, leaving them with endless aftertaste. Everyone chimed in one after another, echoing the sentiment. No matter what, they all secretly made up their minds that next time, they would do everything they could to get a chance to go into the city. After all, back in the village, their daily meals were usually plain and simple. So how could they possibly get to eat such delicious egg noodle soup? Li Dagawei glared at them. "What are you daydreaming about? Move faster. Eat like this again. Why don't you just fly to the sky?" After Li Dagawei and the others left, Chenxi carried a sizable piece of beef jerky in his hand and walked toward the backyard. "Third grandpa, are you home?" he called softly. A little radish head poked his head out through the crack in the door, his eyes sparkling as he looked at Chenxi. "Brother Chenxi, my dad's here." His little eyes were fixed on the piece of jerky in Chenxi's hand, and he was practically drooling. "Chenxi, come in and sit down." Third grandpa's voice came from inside the house, carrying a hint of warmth. Chenxi pulled 2 pieces of candy from his pocket and handed them to the little radish head. "Here, one for you and one for your sister." He knew that third grandpa's family had 4 children, and the oldest 2 were not much younger than him, so he only gave the candy to the 2 younger ones. The little radish head excitedly took the candy, his eyes shining. "Thank you, Brother Chenxi." With that, he impatiently ran off to find his sister and share the sweetness. "Chenxi, why are you bringing something with you?" The moment third grandpa saw the jerky in Chenxi's hand, he understood. This child had definitely come asking for a favor. "Third grandpa, I'd like to ask you to help make something." As Chenxi spoke, he set the jerky on the table. "Oh, what do you want made?" Third grandpa was a blacksmith, to put it plainly, someone who swung a sledgehammer for a living. If it was really about making some object, a fitter would have to handle it. But he had already guessed what Chenxi meant. He wanted him to find an experienced craftsman to make it. Chenxi pulled a drawing from his jacket and handed it to third grandpa. "This thing right here. It shouldn't be hard to make. Later, you can figure out how much it'll cost, and I'll pay you afterward." Third grandpa took the drawing and examined it carefully for a few moments. It really wasn't any kind of precision part, and it wouldn't be difficult to make. But right now, there weren't any materials, so he'd have to ask at the factory. "Still, since you're willing to pay, that makes it simple."